Krishnan, listening to the Iranian foreign minister there, I wonder how helpful it is to the Palestinian cause to have Iran's backing. They provide weapons to Hamas, but for ordinary Palestinians who want dignity, self-determination, maybe it just enables Israel to ignore that and to see it as part of the bigger picture, because Israel always says that Iran is the bigger enemy and that's what it wants to deal with. It doesn't want to look at the Palestinian cause. Now, since October the 7th, Israel, as we know, has been firing into Gaza with devastating results, all those civilians killed. It's also been fighting on its northern border with Lebanon. They've killed about 200 fighters from Hezbollah, which, as you say, is an Iranian proxy, and about 50 civilians. That war has meant that nobody on either side of the border is secure, neither on the Lebanese side or on the Israeli side. And it's Iran, really, on the Lebanese side, which causes the shots. We went up to that border, specifically to the village of Shatula, which is just 2 kilometers to the south. Asaf Khatan can't quite believe the damage. Not from a fox in the hen house, but a rocket. Like other Israelis living on the border with Lebanon, he's grown used to tit-for-tat firing between Hezbollah and the Israel Defense Force. But on Monday, his brother Gershon's chicken farm took a direct hit.
Yeah, so this is what they did.
He was in his own chicken coop just up the road.
שמעתי את הבום, אבל לא ייחסתי לזה חשיבות. אני נשקפתי על הרצפה אצלי בלול, וחשבתי שזה עוד רקטה שנפלה או משהו בזה. אז באתי לפה וראיתי את כל הבלגן, ואח שלי נפצע פה, ולקחו אותו לבית חולים, וזה מה שהיה.
His brother was only lightly injured, but Shatula is just 2 kilometers from the border. So since October the 7th, they work here in the day and sleep somewhere safer.
You don't get this kind of direct hit every day. It's not Gaza, but it is dangerous. And Israelis don't feel that they can come and pick up their old lives again until Hezbollah has been pushed far from the border. The Israeli government says that only Iran can give that order. And if Iran won't, well, the Israelis will use their military might to make sure that Hezbollah is no longer a threat.
Oh my goodness. 3 weeks ago, Asaf's other brother's house was hit. No one was hurt. Hezbollah propaganda video shows the house being targeted, maybe because people had been spotted outside. He blames Hezbollah's sponsors, Iran.
האיראנים פה נמצאים מסביבנו, גם ברצועת עזה, גם בלבנון, גם בסוריה, וגם בירדן, וגם ברשות הפלסטינית. הם עשו לנו מין חגורה כזאת, מתקיפים אותנו מכל, אלה כל הפרוקסי שלהם.
Earlier in the day, just as we arrived at the entrance to Shatula, we saw the results of an Israeli strike just across the border inside Lebanon. As we were leaving, we heard the sound of more. The border runs partly along the ridge. Some of the more distant villages are in Lebanon.
See on the horizon line a Lebanese town named Marwachin.
The war with Hamas triggered the latest cross-border exchanges of fire, but to Israel, it's Iran's increasing influence across the region that's the underlying threat.
Hezbollah is a Lebanese organization that adopted the radical ideology of the Ayatollahs of Iran. It's not a foreign army that took over South Lebanon. It is a local terrorist army. And that's why we should stop saying push back, withdrawal. We should say disarm. We should demand Hezbollah to disarm, to take all these rockets from the homes of the Lebanese and to completely get rid of these military capabilities inside the towns.
So it's all about Iran then?
I think it's mostly about Iran, but Iran succeeded in creating proxies but Iran gives them the training and the munition and the money, and we must treat this threat.
The absent residents of Kibbutz Matsuva can't wait until Iran is defeated before they return to their homes. 60,000 Israelis have been evacuated from the border region since the Hamas attacks last October. They hope that any ceasefire with Hamas would lead to a ceasefire with Hezbollah too.
If there is no security and feeling that there are safety, they won't be back.
What would make people feel safe?
If the Hezbollah will get back from an area that they can't throw direct missiles into the window of their homes.
But Hezbollah has longer range missiles than that. They can hit down to Tel Aviv and beyond.
They can throw rocket all over Israel. We don't afraid from rocket. We're afraid that they can took missiles, direct missiles, that can get direct to this home.
In the kibbutz control room, they can see every move along the border. They're always on alert. Hezbollah, though, is just the proximate enemy. Israel sees the border with Lebanon as the front line with Iran. They're trying to persuade the rest of the world to see it that way too.
Well, in Gaza, following the Hamas attack on October 7th, the Israeli response has been overwhelming. Almost 30,000 people have died and over 70,000 have been injured, according to the Hamas-led health ministry. The UN says a quarter of Gazans are on the brink of famine, and almost the entire population is reliant on inadequate humanitarian food assistance to survive. Earlier today, I spoke to Jan Egeland, Secretary General of the Norwegian Refugee Council. He is in the southern city of Rafah, where 1.4 million people have sought safety, but fear there will be an Israeli ground offensive. I asked him to describe the scenes he's been witnessing.
I mean, the situation is really horrific. There is no other way to describe it. I've been a humanitarian worker for very many years. But the kind of trauma, despair, destitution, disillusionment of the people here in Rafah, Gaza, is like on another scale. People are afraid. There are drones humming over us all the time. I hear several now as we speak. Of course, people are very afraid that this last refuge, where 1.5 million people are crammed together, should also become a war scene. It will be a stain on the history of Israel and on those who provided the arms, the United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and a few others.
So how do you think a ceasefire can be brought about? Because you're also very experienced at peace talks.
Yes. It's not rocket science. Of course, there has to be a release of the poor Israeli hostages that are down in the tunnels somewhere still. There has to be deals, by the way, also for the thousands of unaccounted for Gazans who are in detention and whom nobody's talking about. And there needs then to be some kind of a political deal that gives Israel the security she deserves and the recognition she deserves from the entire Arab world in exchange for some justice, some future, some hope, some livelihood for the Palestinian for once since 1948.
Israel says it does not limit the amount of aid getting in. What is the reality of how much aid is there and is getting in?
Well, Israel is lying, really, and let's not hide the facts here. There is a few trucks coming in every day in a place that should have 500-600 trucks. Tens of thousands of trucks have been denied. There are long lines in Kerem Shalom, even longer lines in Rafah. Israel has to underwrite every single kilo going in, and they are preventing aid to starving children. There's no other way to describe this. Israel and its backers, the US, UK, Germany, and others, have not allowed the aid flow into these people a single day since 7th of October on the standard that was needed. Not a day.
I mean, you know that when Israel hears language like that, it says the world has never allowed Israel to defend itself, and Israel is defending itself, in their eyes, from terrorism. What's your answer to them?
Well, I'm all for fighting against terror. I never accepted the killing thousands of women and children, not a few. Thousands of women and children was anything close to legitimate war on terror. This was disproportionate since the beginning. They have created now a generation of hatred again here. I mean, why wouldn't somebody that had nothing to do with 7th of October, that got their home, their family, spoke to one, I'm emotional now. I just spoke to a colleague who had her entire family wiped out. Is that war on terror? No, this is vengeance. And it's going to come back to haunt those who unleashed this.
Jan Egeland, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, an Israeli government spokesperson said today the country puts no limits on the amount of humanitarian aid sent into Gaza and that it works with various bodies to deliver the supplies. They said they were working with the US government to find ways to improve the delivery of aid.